All right, welcome back. We're looking at adding a few things to our tank game. We need to add the capability of our damage or our tanks getting damaged. We also need to show a health bar. We also need to create some explosion objects. This is all before we can create the shells that actually do the damage. We have to find a way to record that. And remember too, when a tank gets destroyed, we also have to update the score and show that score on the screen. Let's start with the score. The question you have to ask yourself is, well, what object should the score be on? If we put it on like one of the tanks, if they get destroyed, then we lose the score. So a tank isn't a good choice. Walls aren't a good choice. Background's not a good choice. The best place to store score information then would probably be our controller, because there's one in every room. Let's see, where's my controller? I'm not even sure. Oh, there it is, right there. Okay, so let's go to the controller object, and we have to create a few variables in the create event. So here's our controller. And what we want to do is we've defined these two constants, the max tank speed and rotation angle. And you can mess with these numbers now, and you can dial it in the way you want. But we want to create two new variables. They don't have to be global because they belong to the controller, and the controller's not going to go away. So we're going to say our first variable is going to be score 1. This is for the score for tank 1, and we'll start it out at 0. Now, another thing you can do is, if you're just doing a whole set of variables, you can just add click this plus sign, kind of like what we did above. And here we can also set score 2. So the controller is going to keep track of the two scores. If tank 1 destroys tank 2, you'll add 1 to score 1. If tank 2 destroys tank 1, then you add 1 to score 2. Start them both out at 0. So now we have these two scores. We want to show those on the screen so the players can see what the score is. But if you remember, our screen is going to be kind of interesting. Okay. Currently, we have the whole battle arena, right? But what we're going to do, actually, is we're kind of going to do it like Mario Kart, where we'll do a kind of a close-up view of this tank with the tank in the center, a close-up view of this tank. So this will be on the left side, maybe left side over here. This tank's close-up view will be on the right, and then we'll have a mini-map underneath it, kind of in the middle. So our score is going to go on the two zoomed in parts. So we'll do that later, but for now I just want to see it. So where's the best place to display the score? And the answer is on the controller's draw event. Now recognize the controller doesn't have a sprite associated with it, so why are we having a draw event is the question. The answer is, well, we're just using the controller to actually be the object that does the drawing of the score. Make sure that's set to visible. That's the default, because it won't call the draw event unless you do that. Now, there's two types of draw events. If we look at here, we have draw and draw GUI. Now, I don't know if you remember what GUI stands for, but what that means is draw the graphic user interface. So this would be like things like score or things like a toolbar button in a game, like say if you're playing, I don't know, World of Warcraft and it's got all those buttons on the bottom. This is what you would do that in the GUI draw, because that would be drawn last. Okay, these are all the controls for the game, so you want this to be drawn last. So I was thinking we'd have to create a new layer here for the score, but we can use this draw GUI thing and it will be drawn last and do what we want. So add this event to your controller. We're in the controller. Draw GUI is what we're doing. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so what do we need to draw? Well, Let's type the word draw here. The one I want to do is draw value, which would be this one. But the problem is we can't draw it because we don't have a font yet. We don't have a font yet. So you got to have a font before you can draw things. So let's try that first. So first we go to fonts, and we say right click and say create font, or yours might be a little bit different. The user interface keeps changing. But create a font, and we're going to use Arial, but we're going to make it bold, and we also want to make it a lot bigger. For now, let's just set it to 60. Okay, really big. Now we don't need all the characters in this character set. You don't need all the letters. See all this stuff in here? We don't need all of that. We do want the numbers though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these ranges that are there, and I think you select them like that and you say delete. We don't need all of those. It takes up a lot of memory space, so we'll select that one and say delete. And now we're going to add a new range. So here we go, adding the new range. What do we need? Well, we're just showing the score, so we just need the digits. Okay? So I'm going to say digits. And then I say over here, add range. And that adds the range down here. The ASCII values for these digits are decimal 48 to 57. But those are the numerals that we need for our score. Okay, so that's how you set up the font. Now that we have the font, then now we can go back to our controller, and then we can go to the draw event. So again, here we want to draw this value. The first value you want to draw, well, first we don't want this caption, so I would just leave it blank. But the value we want to draw, well, we're in the controller, so we can just say score 1 because we created that in the create event. And I would say a good spot for it would be like, I don't know, 300, and then maybe y is equal to 20. Don't click relative because that'll make it relative to the controller. This is an absolute position. We want it right there on the screen. Now, before you draw anything, though, you've got to set the font. So let's type in font here, because you could have multiple fonts. So this one here, so right above, you say set font, and we'll set it to font 0. Okay, so that loads the font up in the memory, and then we can use the font to draw the value. It'd be nice we have like one tank that's green, and the other one maybe is kind of reddish. So maybe use green and red as our colors for our score. So before we draw the text, then, we want to set the color that we're going to draw with. This would be like what color pen we're going to use to draw with. And we're going to set the draw color here. And our draw color is going to be, well, let's say, for tank 1 it's going to be red. So I'm going to choose red. Okay, and now we'll see the score, hopefully. Let's see if we see it. We'll just try it. There should be a big 0 on the screen. That's the hope. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So that's the tank 1 score. Tank 1 hasn't killed tank 2 yet, so it's got a value of 0. So next we want to change the draw color. So here we're going to make this one green. So if you choose green, I kind of like a darker shade of green, like really dark green here. And so we'll select that. And then we'll draw the text value again. Draw this one again. Same thing. We don't need the caption. We know it's the score. It's pretty obvious. And then the value then would be score 2. Where would we place this? I would do about 360. And then we want it the same vertical position, so we say 20 again. Don't say relative. These are absolute positions. So we'll give it a try. Let's see if we see our 2 scores there. One should be red, the other one should be green. Yeah, okay, so there's our score. Now, for people who are like OCD, this is really annoying having it here and not in the center. But we'll fix that later once we do the views, because these scores will have to follow the tank around. It's kind of weird. But that's what you want for now. At least we can see the scores. Okay. So that's the first step, is to get the scores visible. Now we have the scores that are visible. Now what we have to do is, next thing I would do is create the explosions. Okay. So in this game, there's 2 types of explosions. There's a small explosion when a shell hits a tank. But there's also a large explosion when the tank gets destroyed. So we need to create those sprites first. So let's do that. First we'll create the small one. And so I'll say here sprite explosion small. Okay, so this is the small explosion. And we'll import that. Here's our explosion, the small one. It's out in the S drive or the classes folder under Tank War. So I'm selecting that small one. Now this one is not transparent, so we have to make it transparent. So we say Edit Image. And we're going to select all of the images, and we're going to remove a color. And it's this darker background color, so that the explosion sprite is transparent. All right, so that's one explosion. That's just the small one. Now we have to create the large one. So I right-click here. I say Create Sprite. This time we'll call it Sprite SPR underscore explosion underscore large. So this is the big one. And we'll import that in. I don't know what it's doing. There it is. Here's the large one. And just like the small one, we want to edit it, and we'll choose all of them. The way I'm choosing all of them is I select the first one, then I hold down the Shift key, and then I select the last one. And the same thing, we go and we're going to remove the color from all of them. Oops, I didn't have it selected. Why didn't that work? Oh, there is 2 different colors? Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, so there's our large explosion. Is there? Oh, there is. Good eyes. Okay. So now we're good. Okay, so one thing I forgot to set is the animation speed. If you don't do this, then this never animates. So make sure to say 15 as your animation speed for both the small one and the large one. If we try them out, if I play it, that looks pretty good. Here's another one we tried out. It works. Okay, so now we have our two explosions. But again, we can't put sprites in a room. We have to create objects. So now we need to create our explosion objects. All right. So I'm creating an object. This will be first we'll do the small one. Obj underscore explosion. Oops, caps lock's on. This will be small. And we choose our small sprite. I don't know what it's doing here. This is very strange. While we're in here, we might as well set the animation end event. If you don't make an animation end event that destroys the explosion, then it just keeps repeating over and over again, and that never goes away. So we're going to add an animation end event. So that's under other. So add event, other, animation end. And basically all we want to do in that is we want to destroy ourselves. So we say destroy. And that will destroy self. Okay. So at the end of the animation, the small explosion is just going to destroy itself. All right. Now next is the large explosion. So we'll create that. And we'll use the large sprite, this one. Just like the other one, at the end of the animation, we go to add event, other, animation end. What should happen at the end of the animation? Again, we want to destroy self. Okay. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, maybe this is where we need to change the score, right? At the end of the large animation, that means one of the tanks blew up. But this isn't quite the place to do it because we don't know which tank is blowing up at this point. So, okay. So we have our explosions now. Now we have to have a way to track health of our tanks. So since both tanks are going to have a health variable that need to be initialized, we're going to put this in an object tank parent. Remember, the things that are needed for both tanks, you put in an object tank parent. The things that are unique to one tank or the other, you put in one of the two children. So this one, they both have a health thing in the create event. So here we're going to set health equal to 0. Let's see if they have that here. If we type in health here, actually here, sorry, got it in the wrong place, health. And what we want to do is we want to set health. We'll set health to, well, health. What should it be set to? Well, typically health bars have values from 0 to 100. So we're going to say 100 because we're going to start with 100 health. All right, and that'll cover both tanks because both tanks are a child of this parent tank. All right. So now we're keeping track of health. We've got it initialized. But then comes the hard part. Now we have to show it. Okay. So how do we show the health? Well, we want to draw a health bar right over the top of the tank. Now this health bar is going to be there not only just for tank 1, but also tank 2. So we're going to put the drawing part here. And here's where we're going to draw our health bar. Now usually health bars, they change colors as they get shorter, so it might start out as green, but as it gets shorter it turns red perhaps. So let's do that. Let's add a draw event here. Just a standard draw event. So when we draw the tank, we also want to draw the health bar. So like here, we could say this draw. And there's one here that says draw instance health. And this one says draw health bar. The one we want is this one. Remember the word instance means object, so we're trying to draw the health of each of the tanks. So that's the one we want, but it's kind of big and it's got a lot of parameters. Okay, so what they're asking for is the top left and bottom right corner of the health bar relative to the tank, okay, which is a challenge. So if you look to the right of the projector screen on the board in front, I've kind of showed you where the tank is and where we want the health bar to be in relationship or in relation to where the tank's current location is. Remember, the tank is centered, so in order to get the top left corner of the health bar, you have to move back from the center to the left and then up. So the numbers I'm using are for left. Evidently that's a x-coordinate. You would say negative 32 relative to the center of the tank. Then here, I was thinking the top left corner, the y-coordinate could be negative 45. We want to go up the screen. We'll say relative. For the bottom right corner, we'll use 32 because our tank sprite is 64 bits wide. And then our bottom, let's say negative 35. That'll make a health bar that's about 10 pixels wide, which is, I think, enough. What's our background color? I would just say white. Outline, I would say black. The minimum color, I would say red. When you're about to run out of health, it should turn red. And then the maximum color, I would say green. Okay. So now we have this health bar that's going to draw over the top of our tank. But what we notice when we run this is it doesn't work. Uh-oh. Why do I keep showing you things that don't work? Okay, so I'm going to say go. Yeah, I can come over. Notice that our health bar is super huge. So that's not right. Wonder what got messed up. Let's find out. So left is 32. Top is negative 45. Oh, I forgot to say relative. Okay, those have to be relative. And you'll note that our health bars there, a couple problems. One is one health bar has the right color, the other one doesn't. And then the other thing is, what happened to our tanks? We drew the health bar and our tanks don't work. And so there's this rule in GameMaker that if you override the draw method, then it's up to you to draw your sprite. GameMaker's not going to draw the sprite for you now, because you have told GameMaker, I'm going to create this draw event and I'm going to have to draw it. Okay. So our big problem, though, I'm recording. Okay. So our problem is when we need to draw our tanks, we know we can draw the health bar. We don't know which tank we're drawing because we're on the parent. That could be tank 1. That could be tank 2. We don't know which one it is. So not only do we have to draw this health bar, but we also have to draw the right tank picture. So the way you do that, and this is kind of tricky, is you have to override the draw event coming in from the parent. So if I go to tank 2, let's say, see how it already has a draw event? But what we're going to do is we're going to override that draw event. Now see this little symbol here? Watch what happens when I hit draw. Here, draw is already defined for the parent, but I'm going to define it here on the child. And notice it puts an X right there telling you, hey, this is overriding the one coming from the parent. So we're in tank 2. So what we want to do is we want to what do we want to do? We want to draw self. Here's draw self. Okay, we want to draw self. But watch what happens when I do this. This is just tank 2. I haven't changed tank 1 yet, but I'm having tank 1 draw itself. But the problem is you won't see the health bar. The health bar doesn't actually work. See, so tank 2 did get drawn again, but now the health bar is missing. So how frustrating is that? First we had the health bar and the tank disappears. Now we put the tank back, and now the health bar disappears. What's going on? Well, the problem is here in tank 2, we're overriding the draw method. But the problem is we still need to draw the health bar. So but that drawing is on the parent. So how do we invoke something that's on the parent object from a child? The way you do that is you say this. You say parent. See this one? It says call parent event. So the parent draw event will actually draw the health bar, and then draw self will draw the tank. So let's try that and see if that works for tank 2. Finally, we have our tank. So I'm driving it around, but maybe there's a problem. Oh, there's no problem. Okay? See how the health bar is following my tank, and everything is good. A couple other problems, so we still have to fix tanks 1 problem. And we also notice that the health bar isn't the right color. All we're seeing is the background color. So it looks to me like the health variable is not being set to 100. Right now it's set to 0. That's why we're not seeing any health bar. So let's look at tank 1. First of all, why isn't it green? Well, that's because, remember, for tank 1, we had to turn it around at the beginning of the game. Tank 1 has a create event where tank 2 does not. See, tank 2 inherits the create event from the parent. Tank 1 has its own create event, but we forgot to call the create event of the parent here. So here again, this is in the create event for object tank 1. What we want to do is call the parent event, because that one is the one that will turn around will initialize the health to 0. Okay, so I'm calling the parent event's create event, and that's going to initialize the health to 100. And hopefully the second tank's health bar will be green. Let's see if it is. It is, yay! But now the tank's gone. Okay. So why is the tank gone? Well, same problem. We have to call the parent event, right? So, or have we done that with tank 1? Let's see, tank 1. Yeah, we have to override the draw event and remember to call we still need to draw the health bar. So we'll say, I'm adding a draw event. I know there's already one there that we're inheriting from the parent, but we'll grab it there. That'll override it, right? So the first thing we want to do here is call the parent event, right? Because we want to draw the health bar. And then we want to do our thing, which would be to draw the tank, I guess. So that's this one, draw self. The tank knows how to draw itself, so we'll just say draw self. And then finally, hopefully, we have health bars on both tanks. Notice how the health bar stays with the tank. I can drive. Everything is good. Okay? Now, I don't have drive keys on my other tank, or I would show you that, but now we're keeping track of health. We can't take damage yet because we don't have any shells. There's nothing in this game right now that creates any damage. But we have the score on the screen. We have the tanks moving around. We have health bars on both the tanks. So we're making good progress. Is there anything else we need to do? I feel like I'm forgetting something. I think that's everything. I'm just going to stop right here. All right, so during our testing, we found out a little bit of a problem. When one tank would drive over another tank's health bar, the tank would cover up the health bar, and we want those health bars to be drawn last. So what we did is, here in the parent tank, we changed this event. It used to just say draw. What we did is we changed the event to a draw GUI instead, so that it gets drawn last. Okay, and this didn't change. All we did was change it from draw to draw GUI, which allows us then on the tank, the draw event for tank 1, we had it called the parent event, and we don't need to do that now because the parent event is actually just draw GUI. So you can take out that call to the parent event, not only for tank 1 but also for tank 2, you want to take that out. All you have to do is draw yourself. Right, that should make it so that you can always see the health bar, no matter what gets drawn. All right.